Markets at 10,368. That breadth too is rather encouraging, and barring a handful of stocks that are subdued in today's trading session from the frontliners, RIL included in that list though, you've got the likes of UPL, Indocent, Titan as well as Nestle and Power Grid, which are holding out quite firmly, and the broader markets continue that outperformance. But let's talk about the way ahead for the equity markets, the government action as well as where there is promise. Dr. Subramanian, MD, is the institutional equities at Axis Capital, and he joins in on the show on the sidelines of the Axis Capital Corporate Connect Series 2.0. Thank you so much for taking time out. Why don't we begin with this conference? Tell us a little bit more about the kind of companies that are participating, the number of investors, and what we can look forward to over this 5-day period.
Thank you very much. We are having a second series of our Axis Capital Digital Connect series. Under the new normal, we can't have physical conferences, but we wanted to make sure that the investors and corporates are able to meet each other again and exchange views and understand what's happening in the companies. So this is a second series of our conference. The first series we had in the first week of June. This is the second series. We have about 45 companies participating now, broadly about 20% of the India market cap. Across sectors, this is not focused on a particular sector. We have companies from pharma, from technology, from banking and financial services, insurance, we have lenders, we have utilities, we have auto companies, we have the entire spectrum in our IT services, we have cement, we have engineering, we have companies across the spectrum in this particular conference. So we just want to make sure that investors are able to meet up with these companies and get a fair sense of what's happening in these companies, so that they can make a well-rounded view of the companies when they're making their investment decisions. So thank you very much for that.
Okay. Srinivasan, I love that you're so positive, and also that you're looking at some of these high beta sectors, a nice mix, in fact, as you also just mentioned in the basket. You didn't touch upon consumption, and I'm wondering within that, what would also be the kind of sectors you'd focus on?
Well, my mistake. We have companies from the consumption sector. We have companies like Westlife, which is there. We have Polycab, which supplies to some of the consumption-oriented industries. What do you call Crompton Greaves Consumer Electronics is a consumption on the consumer durable side. We have Pidilite, which is there. So we have companies in the consumption. We have Westlife and Indian Hotels. You can call them in the consumption sector, hospitality sector. So we have companies across the board, including on consumption as well.
Okay, that's that. But give us a little bit of color on, the companies that are actually part of the conference. I understand it's all online, as is for most of us working from home. But which are the companies which are participating in the conference?
Or if I want to call from A to Z, in the sense that we have right from ACC, Engineering, Alchem, Bajaj Auto, Cadillac, Century Textiles, Cholamandalam, Crompton Greaves, Cummins, Dabur, Federal Bank, ICICI Bank, HDFC, Hero, Motors, Indocent Bank, Indraprastha Gas, Kotak, Pidilite, SBI Life Insurance, Polycab, State Bank of India, Symphony, Team Lease, Westlife. These are some of the 45 companies we have in these 4 days in the conference. We have a mixture of a large cap and mid cap. So it is a truly India representative sample.
Oh, absolutely. That's quite a lineup that you have in there, packed in your conference. But which ones are you particularly wanting to hear out? There's a lot of talk about whether or not financials are going to be the go-to place. People are questioning whether even the top 5 will manage to survive, or do you now need to take a tactical shift, move out of financials in the markets, look at some other sectors? Where do you see signs of peaking out coming in, just as a sectoral theme?
We are seeing clearly from our point of view, the market is running in terms of the liquidity run. What the liquidity has done, global liquidity as well as Indian liquidity has done essentially is to put down interest rates down and take the PE multiples up. We think that the current year FY21 and FY22 numbers have been revised downwards by almost all the market participants. So I think that the markets are adjusted to the liquidity and the earnings fall. We are saying at this point in time, we are still a little bit underweight in terms of financials, particularly in terms of the lenders. Of course, we do have non-lenders like insurance companies and asset managers into our portfolio, because they're not in the index, at least in the Nifty or in the Sensex, they're not in the indices. So we within the financials, we are weighing more towards that. Financials itself is underweight. Having said that, I think amongst the consumption sector, I think telecom stands out significantly for us. We would love to move a little bit more towards auto, but I think the auto stocks and all have recovered pretty significantly. I think what the market has done essentially is that it has seen the opening up of the economy from the lockdown and said that supply issues are not going to be there any longer. However, we still need to look at in India whether the consumption, the demand side is going to be as strong as we see in other parts of the globe. China has seen a V-shaped recovery. Parts of Europe and the US is looking at a V-shaped recovery. We're still not looking at a V-shaped economic recovery. We think it's more like a W or a U shape. But having said that, the liquidity is making sure that the multiples expand. We therefore prefer sectors which are, like I said, I started with telecom, is my favorite sector. The next after telecom would be pharma. I would look at rural-oriented sectors, including one of the reasons why we like, companies in the agrochemical sector is because of the rural demand.
Right.
Is going to be there. And some bit of, we are waiting for price correction in autos because we think that's going to be a significant rural demand.
All right, would have loved to chat with you much more, but unfortunately we're out of time. Thank you for taking time out and all the very best on the conference.